Adam stood at the edge of the outpost, his eyes scanning the dark sky above. He had been assigned to patrol the remote planet for weeks, and while the view was beautiful, the loneliness was beginning to wear on him. The human military had stationed him here to keep an eye on the aliens who lived on this planet, but so far, there had been no sign of trouble. That changed when he spotted something unusual in the distance. A figure moving quickly through the thick forest. It wasn't another human. Adam felt a chill run down his spine. Could it be an alien scout? Or something worse? He took a step forward, his hand instinctively reaching for the blaster at his side. The figure got closer, and Adam's heart raced. As he realized it was a woman, no ordinary woman, but a warrior. She was tall, with dark blue skin that shimmered in the fading light, her eyes glowing an eerie green. Her armor, though battered and worn, looked powerful. Like it could withstand anything. As she approached, Adam raised his weapon, ready to defend himself. But the woman held up her hand in a peaceful gesture. "I mean no harm, human," she said, her voice low and steady. Adam hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. His military training told him to be cautious, but her calm demeanor made him hesitate. "What are you doing here?" Adam asked, his voice firm. "This is human territory." The woman didn't flinch. "I am Lyra," she said, her eyes locking onto his. "I come from a far-off world, seeking refuge." Lyra stepped closer, and Adam noticed something strange. She seemed exhausted, her movements sluggish as if she were hurt. Her armor, which had once looked intimidating, now seemed fragile and worn out. "Are you okay?" Adam asked, lowering his blaster slightly. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stumbled, catching herself just in time. Adam quickly moved to her side, his hand reaching out to steady her. Her skin was cold to the touch, and her breath came in shallow gasps. I need to take off my armor," she said, her voice strained. "It's blocking my healing." Adam blinked in confusion. Healing? Lyra's face twisted in pain. "I was injured in battle. My armor keeps me alive, but it prevents me from healing properly." Adam hesitated, unsure of what to do. He had never been in a situation like this before. "Are you sure? I mean, you're an alien. I'm not sure how. ... I can help you." Lyra nodded, her breath quickening. "If you don't help me, I'll die." Adam didn't know what came over him, but he couldn't just leave her there. He stepped back and gave her space. Lyra's movements were slow, her hands shaking as she worked to remove her armor. The sight that met Adam's eyes was unlike anything he had ever seen. Lyra's body was just as alien as her face smooth, blue skin covering a toned, athletic frame. Her arms were marked with strange tattoos, and her eyes, which had once glowed so brightly, were now dim, showing exhaustion. Lyra looked up at Adam, her face flushed with embarrassment. "You've seen me now, ... without my armor." Adam opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He couldn't look away. He had seen aliens before, but never like this. Lyra was different, beautiful in a way that was almost otherworldly. Before he could say anything, she spoke again, her voice full of tension. "Now that you've seen me, you must understand the consequences." Adam frowned. "What do you mean? It's just armor? It's not like no human?" Lyra interrupted, her eyes flashing with sudden intensity. "I come from a species where our privacy is sacred. No one is allowed to see us without our armor. And now that you have, you are bound to me." Adam felt a knot form in his stomach. "What? Bound to you?" "I don't. The consequences are serious," Lyra continued, her voice shaking slightly. "The enemies I've been running from will use this against me. If they find out, they will come for both of us. They won't stop until they've taken everything from me." Adam felt his heart race. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. There were dangers at play, here dangerous enemies who would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. And somehow, he had become part of this. "What do you want me to do?" Adam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra's gaze softened, but the seriousness never left her eyes. "You must marry me, human." Adam blinked in confusion. "Marry you? Are you out of your mind? Lyra nodded, her face grim. It's the only way to protect both of us. My culture, marriage, is a bond of protection. You marry me, the enemies will not dare to touch me, and they will not harm you either. Adam stared at her in disbelief. He had only just met this woman, and now she was asking him to marry her? It made no sense. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that she was right. If her enemies were as dangerous as she said, they could both be in grave danger. Why? Me, Adam asked quietly. Why do I have to be the one? Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time, there was a hint of vulnerability in them. Because you are the only one who has seen me. You are the only one who can protect me. Adam wasn't sure what to think. He had never imagined being in a situation like this, but the more he looked at Lyra, the more he understood. She wasn't just an alien. She was someone in need of help. And somehow, he had become the person who could save her. He took a deep breath. All right, I'll do it. I'll help you. But we need to figure this out quickly. Lyra nodded, relief flooding her face. Thank you, human. I swear I will make it worth your while. Adam didn't know what he had just agreed to, but he knew one thing for sure. His life was never going to be the same again. The moonlight shone through the thick trees, casting eerie shadows across the clearing where Adam and Lyra stood. They were no longer just strangers thrown together by fate. Adam's mind raced as he tried to grasp the weight of what Lyra had just said. Marry her? It was absurd, but the way she looked at him, with a mix of fear and determination, told him that this wasn't some strange alien custom she was trying to pull on him. This was a matter of life and death. I don't understand, Adam said, shaking his head. Why does it have to be me? And why marriage? This isn't normal. Lyra stood straighter, her expression serious, though there was a trace of worry behind her eyes. In my culture, a marriage isn't just a bond of love. It's a bond of protection. If we are wed, my enemies won't dare to touch you, and they won't harm me either. Adam ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of it all. We don't even know each other. How can you just ... trust me? Lyra's gaze softened, though her voice remained firm. Trust you because you were the only one there when I needed help. You didn't turn away. In my world, trust is everything. Adam swallowed hard. The thought of marrying someone he barely knew, someone from another world, was overwhelming. But there was no denying the gravity of the situation. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he didn't have a choice. Lyra was in danger, and if he didn't help her, they both might not make it out alive. All right, Adam said, his voice heavy with uncertainty. I'll do it, but how? Do we even begin? We don't have a ceremony planned. We don't have anything. Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. We'll make it work. We don't need a grand ceremony. It's not about the wedding itself. It's about the bond we share now. Okay, Adam said, sighing deeply. Let's figure this out, but we need to get out of here first. I don't want to be standing here talking when those enemies of yours show up. Lyra's eyes darkened at the mention of her enemies. They will come for me. They won't stop until they have what they want. They know I'm vulnerable now, to leave this place before they sense my weakness. Adam glanced at the distant horizon. The danger was real. There was no telling when her enemies might arrive, and it wasn't safe for either of them to stay in one place for too long. He needed to act fast. Let's go, he said, offering his hand to her. We'll move. We'll find somewhere safe. Lyra hesitated for a moment, but then took his hand. Thank you, she said softly. I don't know what I would have done without you. The two of them moved quickly through the trees, Adam leading the way, his senses alert to every rustle of leaves, every distant sound. He was used to danger, but this was different. This wasn't just an enemy army. This was an enemy who knew how to exploit weakness, and Adam had no idea how to fight that after what felt like hours. They reached a small shelter hidden in the mountains. It was a simple structure made of stone and wood, but it would be safe at least for a while. Adam helped Lyra inside, and she collapsed onto a nearby bench, clearly exhausted. We're safe for now, Adam said, looking around the shelter. He set his blaster down beside him and sat across from her. But we need a plan. Your enemies. How will they find us? Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, trying to regain her strength. They'll know where I am. They've been tracking me for a while now. If they discover that I've removed my armor, they'll be able to sense my weakness. Adam frowned. He said they're dangerous? Who are they? Lyra looked up at him, her expression filled with sadness. They are a faction from my homeworld. They want to use my power for themselves. They believe that by capturing me, they will gain control of the galaxy. Adam shook his head. That sounds like a nightmare. It is, Lyra agreed. Her voice soft. And it's only a matter of time before they come for me. They will stop at nothing to see me captured, or worse. Adam stood up, pacing the small shelter. He didn't know what he could do to help. He was just a soldier. He didn't have any experience dealing with aliens or galactic politics. But he couldn't leave her to face this alone. We need to find a way to fight back, Adam said, turning to her. If they're tracking you, maybe we can use that to our advantage. Lyra nodded slowly. It's possible, but we need to be careful. If they know we're planning something, it could end badly. Adam's mind raced as he thought of a plan. He had always been resourceful in tight situations. But this was unlike anything he'd ever faced before. I can contact my superiors, Adam said. They might be able to send reinforcements. We'll need their help. Lyra's eyes narrowed. I don't trust your superiors. I don't know if they'll help. I'll make them help, Adam said, his voice determined. We can't just hide forever. We need to take action. Lyra sighed. Maybe you're right, but we don't have time to waste. My enemies are patient, but they won't wait forever. Adam nodded, feeling the weight of their situation. They were both in danger, but they had each other. And somehow, that had to be enough. We'll figure this out, Adam said, his voice steady. Together? Lyra gave him a faint smile. Yes, together. As the two of them began to discuss their next steps, the moonlight outside the shelter seemed to glow. Little brighter, as if the universe itself was watching, waiting to see if their bond would be enough to survive the dangers ahead. Adam sat by the small fire, his mind still racing with everything that had happened. He had agreed to marry Lyra, but the reality of it all was still sinking in. He had barely known her for a day, and now he was bound to her by an ancient alien. Tradition. This wasn't just some strange promise. It was a matter of survival. Two of them were in danger, and Adam had no idea how to navigate through it all. Lyra sat across from him, her eyes closed, deep in thought. The firelight flickered across her features, casting shadows on her smooth blue skin. Despite the strength she had shown earlier, there was something fragile about her now, something that made Adam want to protect her even more. He didn't know why he had agreed to this marriage. Maybe it was because he couldn't stand the thought of leaving her alone in this situation. Or maybe it was because, despite everything, he felt something stirring inside him when he looked at her. Something more than just the need to protect her. How long do we have? Adam asked, breaking the silence. Lyra opened her eyes and met his gaze. They'll come for us soon, she said, her voice steady but filled with the weight of truth. My enemies are relentless. They won't stop until they have me. Adam clenched his fists. The thought of them hurting her made his blood boil. He had to do something. He had promised to protect her, and now he needed a plan. We can't just sit here, Adam said, standing up. We need to take action. We need to be ready for them. Lyra stood too, her eyes filled with a quiet intensity. You're right, she said. But we can't fight them alone. We need help. Adam thought for a moment. He had no idea how they could get reinforcements. His superiors were far away, and he wasn't sure if they would take him seriously. But there had to be a way. He couldn't let Lyra face this alone. Maybe I can contact my unit, Adam said, looking at her. They might be able to send reinforcements. Lyra shook her head. I don't know if we can trust them. I don't know if your people will even care about my problems. Adam felt a pang of doubt. She had a point. Humans had their own agendas, and he couldn't be sure that his superiors would put their full resources into helping them. But he couldn't let that stop him. Lyra's life was at stake, and he couldn't just sit by. We'll have to make them care, Adam said, his voice firm. I won't let them leave you to die. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure we survive this. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Finally, she nodded, though there was still a hint of uncertainty in her gaze. "I hope you're right," she said softly. They spent the next few hours preparing. Adam scoured the small shelter for anything useful. They didn't have much, but Adam's military training kicked in. He gathered weapons, food, and supplies that could help them make it through the night. He also began to think of ways to contact his unit without putting their position at risk. Lyra, on the other hand, was more focused on the strategy. She had been running from her enemies for so long, and she knew exactly how they would come for her. She explained to Adam the tactics her enemies used, how they would likely send scouts first, to confirm that she was still alive, and then send a full strike force if they found her. It would be a swift and merciless attack. They won't. "Give us time to prepare," Lyra said, her voice calm but filled with experience. "We have to be ready for them at any moment." Adam nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew it would be impossible to fight off an entire force of enemies without help, but he had to try. They had no other option. The night passed. Slowly, with Adam and Lyra talking about their pasts, their hopes, and their fears. Adam learned more about Lyra's people, how they were a proud and ancient race, with a long history of conflict and power struggles. She told him how her family had been torn apart by betrayal, and how she had been hunted ever since. Her enemies wanted to use her to gain control over her people. They wouldn't stop until they had what they wanted. "I didn't ask for any of this," Lyra said quietly, her gaze distant. "I never wanted to be a part of this war. But now I have no choice." Adam reached out and placed a hand on hers, surprising himself with the gesture. "You don't have to fight alone anymore. I'm here. I'll help you." Lyra looked at him, her expression softening. "Thank you, Adam. I don't know what I would do without you." Adam felt a warmth spread through him. He wasn't used to feeling like this. He wasn't used to caring so much about someone else's fate. But with Lyra, it felt different. He couldn't just walk away. She needed him, and for some reason, he needed her too. Just as they finished their preparations, a distant sound caught. Adam's attention was faint, but it was there, a low hum, the unmistakable sound of something large moving through the air. He rushed to the shelter's entrance and peered out into the darkness. His heart skipped a beat as he saw it. A ship, cloaked in shadows, moving toward their position. "They've found us," Lyra whispered, her voice full of dread. Adam turned to her, his jaw set with determination. "We don't have much time. We'll fight. We'll make our stand." Lyra nodded, her face hardening. "Yes, we'll fight. Together." Adam grabbed his blaster, his hands steady now. He was ready. Ready to protect Lyra, ready to face whatever was coming. Wasn't alone anymore. He wasn't going to let her down. As the ship drew closer, Adam and Lyra braced themselves for the battle ahead. It was only the beginning of what would be the most dangerous fight of their lives. But one thing was certain. They were in this together, and nothing would tear them apart. Adam stood by the shelter's entrance, his eyes fixed on the dark sky. The low hum of the approaching ship grew louder, each passing second making his heart race faster. The ship was close, and so was the danger. His hand gripped his blaster tightly, and he glanced over at Lyra, who stood next to him, her posture tense and her face set with determination. "They're coming," Adam said quietly, his voice steady, despite the tension in the air. Lyra nodded. "I can sense them. They'll land soon. We have no time to waste." Adam turned to face her. "We'll have to fight. We don't have enough time to hide or run." Lyra's eyes narrowed as she studied him. "I knew you would say that. But it's not just about fighting. We need a plan. If we're caught off guard, it will be over before we even have a chance to defend ourselves." Adam took a deep breath. He wasn't used to thinking so much about strategy in situations like this. Usually it was about surviving, doing what he could to get through the moment. But this was different. Lyra wasn't just anyone. She was a princess. And now, somehow, she was his responsibility. "We'll use the terrain to our advantage," Adam said, thinking aloud. "We can set traps and create barricades. If we make them think we're stronger than we are, maybe we can surprise them." Lyra nodded in agreement, a small but determined smile appearing on her lips. That's a good idea. We have the element of surprise on our side. Adam quickly began to move, gathering the few supplies they had. He found some heavy branches and rocks nearby, and began to set up a crude barricade near the entrance of the shelter. Lyra helped, moving swiftly and quietly, her alien strength and grace making her an asset in this dangerous situation. Let's make sure they can't reach the shelter too easily, Adam said as he worked. If we can keep them at a distance, we'll have a better chance. Lyra watched him for a moment, then nodded. We need to be ready for anything. They will try to break through quickly. Once they land, they'll send scouts to search for me. Can't let them get close. Adam's mind raced as he thought about their options. He had to make this work. He had to protect Lyra, even if it meant putting himself in danger. The ship was getting closer now. The sound of its engines filled the air. Adam could see the silhouette of the massive craft against the dark sky. It was huge, much larger than he had expected. It hovered just above the ground, its engines sending gusts of wind that shook the trees around them. Lyra stood beside him, her body tense. They'll be here soon. Adam looked at her, and for a moment their eyes locked. There was a quiet understanding between them. They were in this together, and no matter what happened, they would face it as one. Ready? Adam asked. Lyra nodded, as ready as we'll ever be. They took their positions behind the barricade, their bodies low, and their eyes trained on the sky. The ship began to descend, its lights flickering in the darkness. It landed with a soft thud, the ground beneath them shaking as its massive engines powered down. Adam's heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his focus. This was the moment they had been preparing for. Moments later, the first scout emerged from the ship. It was an alien, tall and imposing, with dark armor that reflected the dim light. The scout looked around, its sharp eyes scanning the area. Adam held his breath, waiting for the right moment. The scout took a few steps forward, unaware of the trap that lay ahead. Adam gestured to Lyra, signaling that it was time. Together, they sprang into action. Lyra moved first, her speed and agility allowing her to close the distance between them and the scout in a flash. She knocked him off balance, sending him crashing to the ground with a loud thud. Adam followed, quickly disarming the fallen scout and tying him up with the rope they had gathered. Nice work, Adam said, breathing heavily. Lyra gave him a small smile. We're just getting started. They quickly moved to the next area, preparing for more scouts. The sound of footsteps echoed in the distance as more of the enemy's soldiers began to emerge from the ship. This time, there were more of them, at least 3. They've sent a small group, Lyra said, her voice calm. I can handle this. Adam nodded, feeling the weight of her words. They couldn't afford to let any of them escape. If they did, their position would be compromised. Their plan would be ruined. The 3 soldiers came closer, unaware of the trap. As they passed the barricade, Adam and Lyra struck again, moving quickly and efficiently. Adam took down 1 soldier, while Lyra disarmed the other 2. In the chaos, the 3rd soldier attempted to run, but Adam tackled him to the ground, holding him down until Lyra secured him. We've got them, Adam said, panting, but there's still more. Lyra's eyes glowed with determination. Then we fight until the end. The enemy soldiers were now in disarray, their plans falling apart with every move Adam and Lyra made. But they knew this was only the beginning. More would come, and they had to be ready for anything. The odds were against them, but together they stood a chance. Adam looked at Lyra, his mind racing. They could win this, but only if they stuck. Together, fought together. Couldn't let her down now. We're not finished yet, Adam said, his voice steady. We're just getting started. Lyra gave him a look of fierce resolve. No, we're not finished. Not yet, as the next wave of soldiers began to approach. Adam and Lyra prepared to face whatever came next. Together, they would fight. Together, they would survive. The hours after the battle were a blur of tension and exhaustion. Adam and Lyra had done their best to hold off the enemy scouts, but they both knew that this was only the beginning. The real threat was still out there, and they were running. Out of time. It's a shelter, while a temporary refuge, could only protect them for so long. They needed to get away before the enemy realized their scouts had failed. "We can't stay here," Adam said, glancing nervously at the sky. The last thing he wanted was to be caught by the full force of Lyra's enemies. Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. "I agree. The enemy will regroup, and they'll send more troops after us. We need to leave before they discover our position." Adam grabbed his blaster and checked its power level. Had enough ammunition for one more fight, but they couldn't afford to waste any of it. They needed to move fast and quietly, staying out of sight until they could figure out their next move. "What about your enemies?" Adam asked, still processing everything. "How long until they send a larger force?" Lyra's expression was grim. "It won't take long. They'll track me, and once they realize I'm still alive, they'll come for me with everything they have. The only way we can escape them is to stay one step ahead." Adam took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Didn't know what he was getting into, but he couldn't back down now. He'd made a promise to protect Lyra, and he would keep that promise no matter what it took. "Let's move," Adam said. He turned and led the way, keeping a sharp eye on their surroundings. They had to be careful. There was no room for mistakes. The dense forest around them seemed like the perfect place to hide, but Adam knew it could also be their greatest disadvantage. The thick trees would block their view, making it harder to spot any threats, but it would also make it difficult for enemies to find them quickly. It was a risk, but it was the best chance they had. Lyra followed closely behind him, her steps light and fast. Adam couldn't help but admire her. She was a warrior, strong and capable, but she wasn't used to running, and he could see the strain in her movements. She was trying to keep up, but she was still injured. He had to keep her safe, but he also had to keep moving. There was no time to waste. They moved quickly, sticking to the shadows and avoiding any open spaces. Adam's heart raced as they made their way deeper into the forest. Every rustle of leaves, every distant sound made him jump. They were being hunted, and the pressure was suffocating. "We need to find shelter again," Adam said, his voice tense. "We can't keep running like this forever." Lyra nodded, her face hardening. "I know. But we can't stay in one place for too long. They'll catch up to us if we do." Adam's mind raced. There had to be some way to shake them off. If only he could get a signal out to his superiors, maybe they could send help. But the situation was complicated. He had no idea who he could. Trust and Lyra's enemies were ruthless. Couldn't risk putting her in more danger. "We'll keep moving," Adam said. "We'll find a way out of this. We have to." The forest began to thin as they approached a small hill, and Adam paused, scanning the area. The night was thick with silence, the kind of silence that made everything feel fragile. He didn't hear the hum of the enemy ship anymore, but he wasn't fooled. They were still out there watching. Lyra crouched down beside him, her eyes scanning the trees. "We need to stay hidden," she whispered. "If they spot us now, we won't be able to outrun them." Adam nodded. They had to be smart. They had to use the environment to their advantage. The hill gave them a good vantage point, but it also left them exposed if anyone came looking. They needed to find a place to hide, a place to regroup. "There's a cave up ahead," Lyra said, pointing to a narrow opening in the hillside. "It's not far. We can rest there for a while." Adam glanced at the entrance. It looked small and dark, but it was the best option they had. They couldn't afford to be picky. "Lead the way," he said. Lyra moved quickly, her body almost silent as she made her way toward the cave. Adam followed close behind, his heart pounding in his chest. Every step felt like a risk, but they couldn't stop. Not now. They reached the cave without incident, and Lyra slipped inside first, her figure blending into the shadows. Adam followed, and they took shelter in the cool darkness, away from the prying eyes of their enemies. Adam leaned against the wall, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "We need to rest for a bit," he said, trying to catch his breath. "We've been moving for hours." Lyra nodded, but her expression remained tense. "We don't have time for long breaks. We'll rest for a few minutes, and then we keep moving." Adam looked at her, frustration building. "How long do you think we can keep this up? Running, hiding, never knowing when they'll find us?" Lyra's eyes softened, but there was still a cold resolve in them. I don't know, but I'll fight to the end. I won't let them take me, not without a fight. Adam felt a pang of admiration for her. He knew she wasn't just saying that for his sake, she meant it. Lyra was a warrior, and she wouldn't give up easily. We'll get through this, Adam said, his voice firm. We're in this together, and we'll make sure they don't win. Lyra met his gaze, her eyes filled with determination. Together, she agreed. For the first time in what felt like forever, Adam allowed himself to relax, even if only for a moment. They still had a long way to go, and the danger was far from over. But for now, they were safe, and that was enough. The cave was quiet, except for the soft sound of breathing. Adam sat against the rough stone wall, his eyes closed for a moment, but his mind was far from peaceful. He couldn't rest. He had promised Lyra he would protect her, but the more they moved, the more they seemed to be running in circles. The danger was closing in. Every decision felt like it could be their last. Lyra stood near the entrance of the cave, her eyes scanning the forest outside. She had been silent for the past hour, deep in thought, her sharp gaze never leaving the trees. She was calculating, planning their next move. But Adam could see the toll it was taking on her. The weight of the situation was heavy on both of them. How much longer do you think we can keep this up? Adam asked quietly, breaking the silence. His voice was hoarse from hours of running, and his body ached. But it was the uncertainty that was the hardest to bear. Lyra turned her head. Slightly, her expression grim. I don't know, she said. They're getting closer. They won't stop until they've found us. Adam stood up slowly, stretching his stiff limbs. He felt a pang of frustration. It seemed like they had been running for days, and yet there was no sign of a solution. He looked at Lyra, her face set with determination. He admired her strength, but he also saw the strain in her eyes. She was no longer the confident warrior she had been when they first met. The pressure of being hunted, of constantly looking over her shoulder, had taken its toll. We can't keep running forever, Adam said, his voice firm. We have to take a stand. We have to fight back. Lyra's eyes flickered to him, a spark of recognition in her gaze. She had been thinking the same thing, but it wasn't just about fighting. It was about survival. And she wasn't sure if they were strong enough to survive what was coming. I'm not sure we're ready for that, she said, her voice quieter now. They're powerful, Adam. They won't hesitate to kill us both if they find us. Adam didn't say anything for a moment. He knew she was right. They were outnumbered, and the enemy had better resources. But there was one thing Adam had that the enemy didn't, the will to fight for what was right. We don't have a choice, Adam said finally. We can't keep running. We need to face them. We'll fight, but we need to be smart about it. We can use the forest. We can make traps, set up defenses. Lyra thought about it for a moment. She didn't want to lose him, but she knew Adam was right. They couldn't keep running forever. The time had come to take a stand. All right, Lyra said, her voice steady. We'll fight, but we do it my way. We need to make them think we're stronger than we are. Adam nodded. Tell me what to do.
Out.
Lyra quickly outlined a plan, her mind moving rapidly. They would set traps in the forest, using the natural environment to their advantage. They would create false trails to confuse the enemy. And they would hide in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. This will be dangerous, Lyra warned. We can't afford any mistakes. Adam smiled. It was a grim smile, but it was there. I'm ready. The two of them spent the next few hours preparing. Adam gathered rocks, branches, and anything else that could be used to create barriers, or traps. Lyra used her strength to move larger objects, her keen eyes scanning every angle for weaknesses in their surroundings. They set up tripwires, hidden pits, and barricades, making sure that any enemy who approached would be met with a surprise. By the time they were done, the sun had begun to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Adam and Lyra stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the path that would lead the enemy to them. They're coming, Lyra said quietly, her voice filled with resolve. Adam looked at her, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. There was no turning back now. I'm with you, Adam said, his voice low but steady. Let's do this. They waited in silence, the air thick with tension. Every sound, every rustle of leaves seemed to echo in the stillness. Adam's hands were sweaty, his blaster ready at his side. He didn't know if he was ready for what was about to happen, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. He had made a promise, and he would keep it. Suddenly, a movement caught his eye. In the distance, he saw figures moving through the trees. The enemy had arrived. Lyra tensed beside him, her grip tightening on her weapon. "Get ready," she whispered. Adam nodded, his heart racing. The moment had come. They had to act now. The first enemy soldier stepped into view, his eyes scanning the area. He took a few more steps forward, not noticing the trap that awaited him. Adam held his breath, waiting for the right moment. Then, with a quick motion, he signaled to Lyra. They struck. The soldier fell into the pit Adam had carefully prepared, his cries echoing through the trees. The other soldiers rushed forward, but they were met with the traps Adam and Lyra had set. Rocks fell from above, branches snapped, and ropes tangled their feet. It was chaos, and Adam and Lyra used it to their advantage. Adam fired his blaster, taking down one soldier. Lyra moved with deadly precision, disarming another before knocking him out cold. The remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure of what to do. The traps had worked, and now they were on the defensive. But Adam and Lyra weren't done yet. They moved in quickly, closing the gap between them and their enemies. With the element of surprise on their side, they fought with everything they had. Every move was calculated, every strike precise. Adam was no longer just a soldier. He was a protector, and he was fighting for Lyra. For their survival, the battle raged on, but with each passing minute, Adam and Lyra gained the upper hand. The enemy was disoriented, and they couldn't keep up with the traps and the ambushes. Slowly they began to retreat, realizing they were outmatched. "Keep going," Lyra urged, her voice filled with determination. "We've won the first battle, but we can't let them regroup." Adam nodded. Together they pressed forward, determined to finish what they had started.